with open hearts, open minds, and open doors. We welcome you to the service of worship at First United Methodist Church in Colorado Springs.
I'm going to read you some names. Unless you have memorized the history book or are the archivist at First United Methodist Church, these names might not be familiar to you, but they're important to you. I want to read you these names. William J. Baird, Emma Baird, Joseph Hemingway, Sarah Hemingway, Holmes W. Kendall, Edmund Murray, Elizabeth Murray, Samuel P. Murray, James B. Rayner, J.T. Treadwell, Mrs. J.T. Treadwell, and T.H. Robbins. 12 names, just 12 names. And yet these are the names of the charter members of our First United Methodist Church, the ones who started back in 1871 that created all of this ministry, just those 12 people. The ones who began, the ones that started, that led to the church that we have today. What an amazing story, began by 12 people. Don't you have a lot of questions about them? I wonder how they ended up out west in a fledgling little community like Colorado Springs. I wonder how they ended up in a Wesley class meeting that became a Methodist church. I wonder what they left behind. I wonder what their fears were, what kept them awake at night in 1871. But most of all, I wonder, what were their dreams? What were their hopes? What did they dream that this little Methodist class meeting would turn into? What did they hope that the Methodist movement would do in Colorado Springs? Just 12 people was all it took to create this magnificent congregation.
The problem with studying history is that, well, it's ancient history. How much more interesting history would be if we could personally hear it from the lips of George Washington or Abraham Lincoln. We tend to think we can only see pioneer families on reruns of old movies. We're fortunate, however, that several of the earliest members of this church are still with us. Many of these gentle people sat in our simple second church, and their names can be found in the first few pages of our cradle roll, which was established in 1900. We ask a few of them to tell us of their memories of First Church. Here are some of their fondest recollections.
Yes, I'm Evan. I've been in Colorado Springs since 1920. I came from Ohio.
I'm Esther Evans, and I've been in Colorado Springs since 1920, and I came from Kansas and started attending First Methodist right away. In fact, our life has been built around the church.
See, I took title to the ranch to begin with when we bought it, and because they decided they didn't want anything to do with it. So then when we paid it off, why then we just deeded it over to the church.
Yes, there were quite a few times that our dinner hour was interrupted because he would get a call, something had gone wrong, he had to leave right away to go to the ranch. But I still felt that it was well worth it, and the kids did enjoy it so much and still do as far as that goes. Of course, it's, I think, pretty well used all the time.
In 1901 to the 1955 period, the third sanctuary, where the Lombard Chapel is now, is the one where my parents were married. They were one of the first couples. My brother, Harold Newsom, my sister Frances Newsom Prudhomme, and I were baptized by dear Dr. Wilcox. And Dr. Wilcox had been to the Holy Land, brought back water from the Jordan River to baptize the babies. My brother arrived at the right time, but I had just the ordinary water. Later in life, I realized why Bud didn't have all the problems I seemed to run into. I'm very grateful to have been a part of this church, from my baptism to being a senior. My special blessings have been Sunday school, UNW, lay witness mission, Bible studies, sermons by outstanding ministers, serving on committees, the music, the TV broadcasts. I am grateful to be a member of a church that has grown in 120 years from a very small 20-member church to one of untold influence in a troubled world.
My name is Brenda Hawley, and I'm sort of the archivist and the historian of the church. I've been in the church since 1944, except for a couple of years. Grew up in the church. I've been an archivist here for probably 25 years, off and on. Once in a while I'd go off and somebody else would do it, and then I'd come back on. When we look back at the church and think of the real small beginning and think of the 13 members that joined in 1871, it's hard to know the entire impact that the members of the church have had over the years on Colorado Springs, and yet we've looked at people who have been the mayor of the city, we've looked at people who have been very involved in city government, in a good many of the organizations in the city, and in the hospital. And so as we look at the impact, we have to realize that not only has the fact that the church has been here, that it's impacted Colorado Springs, it's also impacted worldwide with us sending missionaries, with going as missionaries to places like Haiti, to Africa, to Russia. With that, I think that the Christian journey has made a difference in the lives of the people in the church, but also in the lives of other people that we've come in contact with.
My name is Alice Ann Oakes, and we started attending the church
in 1958.
1958.
I'm Harlan Oakes, and I probably started attending the church in 57. I'll brag on Alice Ann. We had a 2-year-old child when we moved to Colorado Springs, and she immediately got involved in the small children's classes, and I think you played the piano.
Played the piano for all the classes.
There was a time, I think maybe, when our second child came along, you worked in the nursery a little bit and continued to work in Sunday school as the kids advanced in the years and the programs.
Well, it was very much a part of our lives, and I guess we took it for granted that it was always going to be there, and hopefully it is. The way it happened in our lives, it was going to be, we were going to be Presbyterians, but Harlan decided that this is where we were going to stay.
No.
Oh, no. So, and I, of course, relented to that. So it was, it's just been part of our lives. We did the things for them and received them. I think that we made a good choice.
The church has been a great inspiration to me and to Alice Ann. It has helped our family through so many of life's major events.
My name is Jill Miter. My family and I joined the church in 1981. I'm currently involved with Chancel Choir, and also I am a music librarian. Things that I remember about those early choir experiences were, in particular, the participation in lessons and carols, and after which everyone would quickly put on their coats and go outside into the front where the great tree was, and we would stand around and sing carols, and there would be an older person or couple who were given the honor of turning on the tree. So we would wait for the tree to light up, and then we would sing heartily. Also, after the lighting of the great tree, we would go downstairs into the banquet room for gingerbread shop, where there would be hot chocolate and coffee and goodies for the children and things to buy to support the music department.
Hello, my name is Leanne Hadley, and some of you remember me and some of you might not. I was the children's pastor at First United Methodist Church for about 25 years. I was there for 7 years and left for a few years and came back, and I watched an awful lot of children grow up at First United Methodist Church. And gosh, I miss the mountains, I miss all of you, and what a great church you have. What a celebration you must be having and you're entitled to. I think the thing about First United Methodist Church is that it's a church that is supposed to be filled with children, and you have worked hard filling it with children. I wish every church took their children's ministry as seriously as First United Methodist Church does. I wish you every goodness, and I want to tell you that I do hear from the children that were at least in my program, and they have lots of stories to tell. Most of them are just that it was a place where they felt loved and they knew they were loved. And some of them have gone through interesting times as they've grown up. They reach out and they say, when you told me that this church would always love me, I believed you, and so I'm calling. I just can't think of a better thing that a church can be about than loving their kids for their whole lives. And that's what you've done. And on a personal note, you loved my kids. I came there as a single mom with young kids, and you loved them. And they grew up there, and they grew up there in your love and your care. So as a children's pastor, I admire you. As a mother, I thank you. Thank you for being First United Methodist Church and loving the kids. Happy anniversary. I miss you. I wish you every good thing. And remember, you are a blessing.
The things I like about First United Methodist Church are choir, acolyting, being in plays, Sunday school projects, and pretty much stuff like that. The best thing is probably everything.
Everything?
Well, I've always gone here. I must have joined when I was around 12. Is that when? The usual age, and got my Bible and all that, but I have been here since I was around 5 or 6. Some of the things I remember participating in the church. Gosh, choir, ever since I was small. Chorus or choir, carol and boy, youth singers, chorale, ringers, playing the piano. Most recently I've been in Stephen Ministries. I remember being in productions when I was really small, when we used to do a lot more in the theater. A lot of different things. I think one of the most memorable experiences I had was being a member of youth singers. Just from what I gleaned from that in terms of my music ability, but also the friends I made, and I think it really deepened my faith in a sense that nothing else really has. In terms of music, it really seemed to touch me and touch my heart. And secondly, I think a real memorable experience for me was when my daughter was baptized, because I was baptized here, and that was really special and quite a blessing that she could be baptized here as well. I think in terms of my faith, it's helped me that it's always been a place, as we were saying, a place called home for me. Some place where I knew was always there, and it's deepened my faith in terms of caring for people and realizing what my relationship with God and the people that I'm around and what that means. And it's probably more the people than the building, although the building means a lot to me. It's the friends I've made here and the family memories I have that it's real special.
Well, my name is Zach Walker. I'm the current director of the ranch, or the ranch caretaker, along with actually being the director of the youth ministries down at the downtown campus right now. So I came when I moved up here to Colorado Springs from Texas in about that 2007-2008 timeframe, and my parents wanted to get me involved in some sort of youth group, and that was right there at my 7th, 8th grade year. And so ever since about 2008, in fact, one of my first trips with the youth was actually up here to the ranch itself. And so it just started kind of bringing all kinds of ways that I had never actually experienced God or experienced spirituality was all being kind of a part of creation. And so it kind of got me from the get-go and hasn't let me go since.
Is it the ranch that hooked you into being the youth pastor?
It definitely had a lot to do with it, I'll be honest with you. And so there was a lot to kind of just being... It was a place that I really needed when I was transitioning from 7th to 8th grade, right there in the middle of everything, but then to also have a place where I was recognized and I had a lot of friends in high school, and it kind of built me up that way. It also taught me a lot of ways of leadership and character building, and then to have that, almost all of that, reinforced with the ranch. And so there would be times where we'd have mission trips up here, and it was just believing in yourself and the ability to do something.
It was my pleasure to come on board 24 years ago in 1997 and to help maintain and run and expand a great choir program that has great standing in the city of Colorado Springs. Over and over, I have talked to people who have said, when we think of great music in Colorado Springs, we think of First United Methodist Church and then a couple of other churches as well in town, as well as all the professional music that they can get. But they feel like they get professional music here as well. Many of you will remember the every other year performance of Messiah. What a delight that has been for me to conduct those every other year. And then on the off year, the Patriotic Celebration. What a great time to bring together our community and honor our firefighters, our first responders, our military personnel, and to have many military folks join us as narrators, 3- and 4-star generals and retired veterans, to have them honored in those concerts. So that's just been a wonderful, wonderful time. We're so thankful then to have Doug Grogan on our staff and to carry forth through this pandemic, coming through to the other side and looking to see what the future will bring. I know it won't be an easy time, but I pray God's blessing upon him, upon all of you that have gathered, and we're so happy to be celebrating this 150th. I'm so thankful to be a part of it and to have been able to conduct the special anthem that was commissioned for us, "O Gracious God" by Mark Hayes. God's blessings on each one of you. I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for 24 years of wonderful experiences here at First United Methodist Church.
Welcome to worship at First United Methodist Church in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Under the leadership of our senior pastor, Reverend Kent Ingram, our family of faith is called to be a voice of unity and inclusion in the midst of a divided world. You are invited to join us at one of our multiple locations in the heart of downtown or in Banning Lewis Ranch. Join us now as we experience the presence of Christ during worship today.